Good evening and welcome to tonight's driver's ed class. We are going to finish up tonight's topic on speed, and then we're going to get into parking, the different reference points. Now, most of you have started to do some type of parking maneuvers with me, so this is going to look somewhat familiar. So remember to text in that you're here. I'm going to start sending out a worksheet that we're going to do. So don't be surprised if you see I'm going to see if I can send all this stuff out. So I'm going to be sending everybody out a copy. So I'm hoping this works. So I'm going to be sending it out individually through text messages. I'm going to go one by one, so I know that you're here. First time I've done something like this, so I'm just dragging it over and sending it in as it pops in. So I think I've gotten at least 4 of you. So Jake, make sure that you text me that you're here. So I'm almost complete. See who else is here. Marcus, make sure you text me. Actually, this is working better than I thought. I've almost got everybody. So Jake, take a look at your text message and see if this is working. Oh, it's not delivered. Figures, Jake. You're probably in an Android. Same thing, Marcus. Are you on Android? Because if that's the case, I'm going to have issues. Okay, what I'll do is when I do the video, let me explain what I'm doing. After we go through the notes on speed, I'm going to transition into notes for parking, and then we're going to come back to watch about a 20-25 minute video on speed. It evolves around young people that I believe were from the upper north, west, Michigan, Wisconsin, up around that area. High school kids that were involved in a crash dealing around speed. So that's what I wanted to show you and get your reaction on it. So what I will do, and let me do it right now. Okay, here's the questions right here. All right, so these are the questions that I've sent everybody. From the video, dangers of speed in hills. How many people were involved in the crash? I want you to give me the answer to that. Was everyone wearing a seatbelt? We've already talked about seatbelts and airbags, so we're going to talk about, why did someone pass away in this crash? Question number 3, was going fast intentional? If so, what was the reason? 4, what are some of the factors other than speed that led to the crash? Did it seem like everyone was having a good time? If not, what did they do? How would you describe the parents who are speaking on camera in the video? Give one word and then a sentence around how you would describe parents are coping with the crash. Do you think parents, families, and friends have forgiven the driver who caused the crash? Was the penalty fair for the driver? So you know that there's going to be a penalty. Yeah, you have time to print it out. Sure. If you guys want to go print it out, absolutely. Have you ever felt uncomfortable with someone's driving, and what did you say to them? And then lastly, explain how peer pressure can be positive or negative, because in this situation, I think we're going to see that there was both. So those are the questions, and I think I get them out just about to everybody, but I think Marcus and Jake have Androids, and Androids don't play well with Apple for whatever reason. And I believe this was a PDF, so I have no idea why it didn't go along. So if you, Marcus and Jake, if you, trying to think what I can do. If you can send an email to tolldrivingschool@gmail.com. So that's my email address, tolldrivingschool@gmail.com. Do that during one of the videos that we'll be watching, so you don't have to do it right now. But just send me an email, and then if I receive it during the video or one of the videos before this, there will be another long video. I actually do a video on parking that's probably about 10 to 12 minutes long. That will probably be the one to do it, so I'll remind you when we get there. So that's what we'll do for that, and then I'll try to send it in a file through an email, because on the computer here it says that it's a PDF file, and I don't know why it's not sending over, but that is the case. All right, the last thing that we talked about last night was work zones. Of course. Oh, I went right to parking. Hold on. There we go. We talked about photo enforcement, and then we talked about how radars work. Oh, let's talk about speeds first. I think I kind of skipped over road construction, so I'll get to that in a minute. You do need to know this tomorrow for the midterm. Remember, tomorrow will be the midterm. We're going to have class at the beginning. You're going to have notes on driving emergencies, and then I'm going to release you to do the midterm for the last half, and you'll have plenty of time to do it. But the speed limits here will be on the midterm. Now, most of us have been driving in every single situation that's listed right here. So you should commit this to memory. You should never get in a situation where you're driving and you don't know within a 5 mile an hour leeway of what the speed limit is. So I'm saying that if you're driving in a rural area, you should probably guess it's going to be 35 or 40. It's not going to be 25, and it's not going to be 50. So you should be relatively close. So school zones, 20 miles, school zones, 10 miles below the posted speed limit, 45 minutes before school opens, and 45 minutes after school closes. Now, in some situations, we're going to have yellow lights to remind us when that time frame is taking place. So if the speed limit's 40, like it is near Moorhemet, then it drops down to 30. If you are in an area near Mastway, the speed limit is going to be 20, because the speed limit is normally 30. So depending on what the current speed is, just minus 10. And just do it at the beginning of school and do it at the end. And a lot of people say, well, I don't know what time the school opens or what time it closes. The other dead giveaway, do you see a lot of school buses? Do you see a lot of people walking? Parents coming in out of the parking lot? Then go slow. You basically know, we can basically guess between 10 and 2, there's no way school's going to open that late and it's going to get out that early. So it's really early morning and mid-afternoon that we have to worry about. Urban areas, 30 miles per hour. Rural areas, country, 35 to 50, because we have 50 miles per hour near the Madbury Police Department. Highways, the minimum will be 45, maximum will be 65 or 70 now. Okay, in some situations, I think this is from the state manual, you'll see your speed limit up as high as that on 93. And house trailers must go 45. So we're talking about modular homes. You know, these house units that are being shipped by road, by tractor trailer, they can't pick up a lot of speed because of that added weight causes more braking distance needed. So they've got to go at a relatively slow speed. Now, in some parts of the country, 7 states, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, South Dakota, Texas, Utah, Wyoming, have allowed 80 miles per hour on selected highways. And Texas, they actually have an 85 section on State Highway 30. So depending on where you go, you're going to see higher speed limits. We're building roads better. Our cars are equipped with better safety features. If you have a decent amount of driving skill, you should be able to handle 85. Now, I know some of you, I haven't taken on the highway yet, and you're probably dreading it, just going 45 to 55. Can you imagine if I had you travel on this roadway going 85? You've got to kind of grow into that speed. Okay, it's just not something that's going to, come to you easy. There's going to be some uneasiness, and especially emerging on. But we'll talk more about the highway when we get to that lesson. Okay, I do want you to know about construction, not so much about what the fine is, but I want you to realize that cut your speed by at least half to a quarter of what the posted speed limit when you're going by one of these work areas. Even now, because we don't have a lot of snow on the ground, they will be doing some type of road work. Now, it may be on the pavement or it could be on power lines. So don't think road construction just means digging up the road. It's anything dealing with anything around the roadway. So it could be utilities, it could be guardrails, it could be traffic lights. But if there are men working around their truck, then orange cones, orange warning signs, and usually a flag person telling you when to go and when to stop and to keep your speed down. Now, this is out in the Midwest, so it's just a slightly different. But where's my road construction? Oh, here it is.
They can become a common sight across Missouri when the weather is warm. Construction zones. These men and women are out working right along the highway, trying to give you a safer and smoother ride. And we want to remind you to be alert.
Trooper Green with the Highway Patrol.
That's why we decided to join a state trooper.
Speed limit in this construction area is 60.
As he works to ensure you drive safe and obey the speed limits in a work zone.
Rear, stationary.
Is that good enough for you? The reason I'm stopping you is going a little fast this morning. Do you have your driver's license and your insurance with you? Oftentimes there's a lot of construction projects going on around the roadways in different parts of the city and the county, and they don't realize that these individuals are out here basically risking their lives trying to improve the roadways.
The Missouri Department of Transportation and the Highway Patrol work together to cut down on the number of accidents involved in a work zone.
So I need you to pay a little bit more attention, okay? There's a lot of guys doing road construction up through here, and that's why we're out here, is trying to prevent one of these accidents from one of these individuals getting run over, and obviously you can understand why, all right?
That's why every year MoDOT sets aside a week in the month of April for Work Zone Awareness Week.
For our workers, this is their office. This is where they work every day, and so people need to be aware of that. They're trying to get a job done.
You know, if you were going 60 and had to stop for some reason or slow down for something ahead, you're able to do so. Come along at 80 miles an hour, you don't stop in time, and unfortunately you end up striking an individual out here working, doing his job.
So remember, if you're out driving this construction season, be on the lookout for those orange cones, obey the speed limit, and stay alert out there. You could be saving somebody's life.
All right, have a good day.
Or maybe even your own.
Okay, another thing I want you to write down about construction sites is that if there is not a police officer around the construction site, the flag person or any workman can write down a description of your vehicle and your license number, and they can report to the police. And the police can send you your ticket to you in the next day or two. So don't think, well, there's nobody around. It doesn't matter if I buzz by at a high speed. If they can get a description of your car and, your license plate or a partial license plate, you could still be in a lot of trouble. A lot of people think that you need a police officer around to receive a ticket. If there are people that can see that you're doing something that's illegal and they're willing to take a picture of it or to go to court to say what they saw, it's going to be your word against their word. So don't think, no police officer means I'm good to go, do whatever I want. A lot of people have that misconception of how traffic law works. Because I know people have complained about young kids in a neighborhood, and some of the neighbors went to court and said he drives way too fast to the neighborhood, and they dragged this guy in court. I was in the court that day, and I heard the whole case. And there wasn't a police officer that wrote the ticket. It was, owners of homes in a neighborhood complaining. So be aware. Okay, high-speed driving. The thing about high-speed driving, we kind of alluded to this yesterday, is that it builds a false sense of security, meaning that if you're not looking at your speedometer, you start thinking what you're traveling is the speed limit. In reality, you could be going like 10, 15 over the speed limit because cars are built so well now. And if you're on a decent road, it just doesn't feel like you're speeding. It just feels like you're just traveling down the road. So by going faster it's building that habit of you always are going the way that you feel you should go rather than what you know you should go. So you've got to start driving now the way you know you should go, especially on your driving test. They're going to be evaluating you on how well you can maintain speed. It shows that, one, you're looking out for signs, one, that you can actually do it. So by not doing it on your driving test, they're saying you're not looking at your speed limit signs, or that you just don't like going the speed limit. You're one of these, people that likes to go fast. And we really don't want those type of people out on the road. So they're going to delay giving you your license until you show some responsibility of maintaining accurate speed. Every time you go by somebody or past somebody, there's more of a chance of being involved in a crash. It's one of those things like the game of Jenga, how you pull out one of those wooden things, you can pull out a couple and the thing's not going to, knock over. So you can go fast probably a couple times and not feel like you're going to get a ticket. But if you keep on doing it and you start going day after day, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Now, on the flip side, well, here are some facts. When you double your speed, your stopping distance can be 4 times greater. We kind of talked about that yesterday. Risk of serious injury or death is 4 times greater at 60 than in 30. Makes sense because it kind of ties into what we just mentioned right up above. Wasting fuel, increased wear and tear on your vehicle and on your tires. Now, a lot of you are going to be driving your parents' car. So maybe they're paying for the fuel, so you really don't care about it. But when you only have $30 to go towards fuel for the whole week, you're going to start thinking about ways to, make sure it lasts you the whole time. And it's not just going fast. It's turning off your engine in a parking lot. When you get to where you're going, you're not just, idling for no apparent reason. The other thing about people that speed is they're the ones that tailgate. Tailgating is a sure sign of a person that likes to go fast. Most people that go the speed limit have no problem giving you your following distance behind. And by the way, I want you to write this down. The only area that you have complete control over is the area to the front of your vehicle. You have no control over left, right, or rear, meaning that you speed up, the cars next to you or behind you will speed up. The only area that you have complete control over is the front, meaning if the car slows down to 30, you can slow down to 25. They slow down to 25, you can slow down to 20. You have absolute full control over what's happening in front of your vehicle. No control left or right or rear, because they will mimic exactly what you're doing. The slow driver. can be as dangerous as the high-speed driver. If you cannot handle going the speed limit, you probably shouldn't be out on the road. I try not to take you to places that I don't think that you can be successful with. And hopefully your parents don't either. But there does come a time when we have to push you to a different speed zone to get you used to that speed zone. Now, you may not be comfortable with it for a while, but we're doing it on a purpose to try to get you to that point where you're comfortable. So if your parents haven't driven with you on the highway, you might want to wait till you do it with me. All right? Let me help you out. We'll kind of iron out some of the rough areas. I'll give you the reference points, the technique of how to do it. We'll do it a few times. Then it'll be a little bit easier with your parents. They may not be quite ready to handle the highway with you yet. But some of you have already done it, and I'm sure it's not a problem. It's against the law to drive so slow. Just like most police officers have told me, if you go 5 over, 5 under, they're going to probably leave you alone in most situations, unless it's bad weather or if you're too close to other people. But you can get a ticket for going too slow. Most people don't realize that if you're going 10 miles below the speed limit, yeah, he maybe feel so bad for you. He may not give you a ticket, but he's going to say, why are you going 20 miles per hour and at 30? And you've been doing it for the last 3 minutes. Why? Okay? But technically, he can give you a ticket. So move over to the side of the road. If you really don't like going fast, if there are people, don't hold them up. Pull over to the side. Let them go by. And I can't remember the last time that I had a student pull over to let someone go by. It doesn't happen that often because I don't put you in that situation. Some of these I don't have the videos for, and I did want to kind of cover this first. This one right here is what not to say to the police, is a video that I found on the internet. It's kind of a comical thing about what not to say, because most people will lie. Think about this, okay? I want you to think about this. If you do something wrong and out in public, okay? Let's say that you're at a Walmart and you're with your friends and you're fooling around and your friend pushes you into one of the end displays and things get knocked over. Most of you would probably look around to see if anybody's watching and then run away. Very few of you probably would stay there and pick it up. Now, if you get caught, you're going to blame your friend. You're gonna say it wasn't you, it was somebody else. Most people will find ways to make excuses of why things happen. And speeding in life is a good example of where people probably kind of bend the truth. I'm not going to say that you're lying, but I'm going to say that you're not exactly truthful. You're bending what is actually happening. Like you could be going 45 and a 30, and he'll say, do you know why I pulled you over? And you're going to go, no, I don't know. Or do I have a headlight out? You know, and you're going to start saying anything that will kind of take you away from the thought of explaining to the officer, yeah, I know I was going too fast. You're going to try to get your way out of the ticket. And by the way, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. No one wants to get a ticket. So let's do this first. Write this down. When a police officer pulls you over, he has 3 choices. Okay? He has 3 options. The first option, he gives you a verbal warning. He explains why he pulled you over. He'll tell you why it was probably not the best thing to do, why it's unsafe, and then he lets you go. That's what you want. You want a verbal warning. The second thing he could do, he could give you a written warning. A written warning where he writes out on a piece of paper a ticket saying that if I catch you doing this again, in my town, the next time it's going to be a real ticket and not a written warning. So a written warning goes into the system, but you just don't have to pay for it. So they've got record that we pulled over Jake, 3 weeks ago for running a stop sign, and now they're pulling him over again, and now he's doing it. So they're going to say, you did this 3 weeks ago. You didn't learn your lesson. So now it's a real ticket. So the last thing would be the ticket. Now, in a lifetime of driving, you should expect to be pulled over at least once. Okay. So it can be kind of frightening. It will be uncomfortable. Okay. Even though, I'm an adult and I teach driver's ed. In the driver's ed car, we've been pulled over. It's not something that I like, but I don't get tickets. I try not to break any of the laws that I'm teaching. So I don't really have a driving record. But at times, we will get pulled over. In my own personal car, the last time I think I got pulled over, and you'll find this hard to believe, there is a light on your license plate in the back. If you ever take a look when you're at nighttime, your license plate is lit up. There's a little light bulb above the license plate. I got pulled over because that light bulb was out. And he told me I had 5 days to get that fixed. If I didn't get it fixed in 5 days, then it was going to be an actual ticket. Because I had a license plate light out. Not a headlight, license plate. Okay? So you never know, some officers really are strict, depending on what town that they're in. I was in Rollingsford. So it's going to be nerve-wracking. You're going to hope for the verbal warning and not the written warning. So I've written down a few things that I want you to think about and to maybe put into your notes. I don't think I've got you. I don't think I've got a question tomorrow on how to handle a police officer. This isn't even in the manual. This is not even in the textbook. So this is something that I've added into the program because I think it's so important, because I don't want any of you to have a problem with the police or to get a ticket. But I know because driving is something you're going to do for a lifetime, that at some point you're going to probably do something maybe unaware of that you're going to get pulled over. So the first thing I want you to write down is pull well off the road, meaning do not stop your car where it is somewhat in the traffic lane. So between the yellow and the white line, you should not have any portion of your car. Drive up the road a mile, 2 miles. As long as you go slow with your right directional on, telling the police officer, you're going to be pulling over, but I'm not going to do it here. I'm not going to do it here. There's something just around the corner, I think. I'll pull over there. So you're looking for a parking lot, a driveway, someplace, because you want to be safe. The police officer should be safe. Now, first impressions go a long way. If you stop your car in a place that's unsafe, do you think the officer approaching your vehicle is in a good mood, or do you think he's in a bad mood? He's in a bad mood. So now you're not getting a verbal warning. It's going to be either a written warning or a ticket, because he's probably thinking, why is this fool pulled over and he's got half of his car still out on the roadway? And by the way, a police officer will always park his car 2 to 3 feet more to the left than your car. So if your car is on the white line, his car is going to be 2 to 3 feet out in the roadway, because his vehicle acts as a shield as he talks to you and gives you your ticket. Now stay calm, remain in the vehicle, and keep your hands visible. So 10 and 2, do not roll down the window. Just stay right where you are, no movement at all. He'll come, and by the way, he'll probably stop near the back window and lean forward. He doesn't ever get right side by side with you because he suspects that you may have a knife or a gun. Something bad could happen to him, so he's been trained to stay back and lean forward. He'll knock on the window. He'll tell you to roll down your window, and he'll ask for your license and your registration. So produce those requested documents very quickly and efficiently. Now, why do I include quickly and efficiently? Because you may have rolled through a stop sign, but if you can't find your license, if you don't know what your registration is, he's starting to think this person's on alcohol or drugs. He can't even comprehend what I'm asking for. Now he may pull you out of the car. Now he has suspicion that something's not right with you. Just not that you rolled a stop sign. So he's gonna maybe ask you, do you know why I pulled you over? And you can answer any way you want. I'm not telling you you've got to tell the truth. I'm not saying that you should lie. I'm saying whatever you do, you're going to have to live with the consequences. But remember, and this is something that I think parents have told their kids, is that when you tell a lie, you're going to have to keep telling a lie, meaning that you may find yourself not being consistent with your story. And the minute they know that you're lying, things are going to get a lot worse. A lot worse, because no one likes being lied to. Do not be fresh. Do not be flippant. Don't say, this is the last one. It says, don't bribe the officer, or I should also say intimidate, meaning that you should never say, my dad knows the police chief. This isn't going to stick because I know a state trooper. He'll get me out of this. Don't do that. That does not work anymore. 20, 30 years ago, people were able to get out of tickets. But with technology now, with phones and people taking pictures and officers doing the wrong, officers got to pretty much walk the fine line, the straight and narrow. Okay, they can't, get you out of these tickets. So I find being truthful, being honest, asking for mercy, okay, asking for mercy, officer, please, I have a part-time job. If I lose my license, I'm going to probably lose my job. I work at Market Basket. If that's all truthful, I think most police officers will be sympathetic to that. He'll go back, he'll say, okay, I see that you don't have any moving violations. This would be your first. I'm not going to give you a ticket. I'm going to give you a written warning or a verbal warning. And you're thinking, thank goodness. Because remember, you lose your license for 20 days. Your first ticket's 20 days. Your second ticket's 45. Your third is 90. 45 and 90 days. 90 days is the whole summer. You get a ticket in June, your summer is ruined. So think about what you're doing behind the wheel. When you do get pulled over, try to make it where the officer is going to feel that you respect him and that you've learned your lesson, that it won't happen again. So I think if you put some of these things into play, I think this will help you in the long run. I don't have the article, but I do remember an article that I had at one point where a woman lied to an officer and told him that her dad was very ill at the hospital. He probably wouldn't make it the day. He's going to probably pass away. And she just wanted to get to the hospital to see him one last time. Well, the officer went to that hospital later in the day for another reason. Could have been another crash or something. And he was really concerned about the woman's dad. And he asked the hospital, how is so-and-so doing? And they go, we don't have anybody by that name in the hospital. And then they researched it. Her dad had passed away years earlier. So this woman just made up a story and hoping that the officer would buy it. And now the officer knows that he was lied to. And guess what? Even though this was hours or days after what happened, he basically was so upset, he actually still wrote her up a ticket and gave it to her because he had all the information. So I think being truthful is the best policy. So speed is dangerous. And I hope that when you get into a car with somebody that you are willing to speak up if they're clowning around and you don't feel safe. I also hope and trust that once you get your driver's license that you'll be responsible and understand that if you've got other people in the car, you're liable for those individuals and that you will not disrespect their wishes of going too fast and acting out. Because you are young, you're youthful, and you're going to do some of these stupid things and not think about it. I'm going to be a long gone memory, 4 or 5 months from now. During the summertime, you probably won't even remember my name. But hopefully you'll take something away from driver's ed about safe driving. And you won't get yourself in situations where you could lose your license or get in a situation where you could injure or hurt other people. So speed is a big deal. So treat it with respect. Now, for what we've got left to do is we got to talk about parking. So let me get into parking. Okay, parking, step-by-step reference points. I will admit that taking a driver's ed class here in New Hampshire would probably be different than taking it in Massachusetts or New York or some other places. So you've got to remember is that there are laws and then there are techniques. Laws you have to know and you have to abide by them, because we just got done talking about speed limits. That's a law. We've got to understand that and do it. Techniques are totally different. Okay, the way that I teach parking may be different than another driving school in Massachusetts or even here in New Hampshire. But certain aspects of parking are laws, where you can park legally, how you can park, meaning how close and things like that. You need to know. So we're going to talk not only about the lawful part of parking, but we're going to talk about the reference points of how to park safely. I've always told students over the years that when I take you out to drive, if I tell you your lesson to drive today is angle parking, if you can angle park different than the way that I teach it, I really don't mind, as long as you can do it consistently. Because the most important thing about parking is to be safe and consistent. So if you can be safe and consistent, I don't care how you do things. Okay, you can do it your own way. But I have found, especially in the vehicle that you're driving with me, I have found certain points on the vehicle that should help you get your car into a parking spot. All right? So let's kind of go through what some of these may be. Now, I want you to write down these three terms: stopping, standing, and parking. So now we're dealing with laws. These are laws. Now, we all know the last one, parking. All right? You've all been in vehicles. Your parents have taken you to the mall. You've probably driven there too. You know how to park a car. You're getting it into a parking spot. But when people see the word on a sign, standing or stopping, no stopping or standing, what does that really mean? So no standing means, I want you to write this down, it means that you can stop to let people out of the car or pick up someone who is already there. Good example would be the airport. All right? So there is standing allowed at an airport, but no waiting for someone or loading or unloading. Okay? So that would probably be like stopping out in front of Market Basket while your mother goes in for a half hour and then comes back out. You should have been in a parking spot, not into one of these areas where it says no standing. So the waiting part is the hard part. So when it says let people out of the car or pick someone up, so we're talking about it's really quick. Like we're talking about like 30 seconds to a minute. When they say no waiting, they're talking more than a minute. Okay? So when I said the airport, sometimes someone's text you, I'm in the airport, I've picked up my luggage, meet me outside. You may wait there for a little bit. That's still considered standing. Now, no stopping is the most restrictive, and that's you can't stop at the curb for any reason. So no stopping means nothing. No letting out, no getting in, none unloading. Okay, none of that. So no stopping is really very constrictive. So what we're trying to do is keep roadways and highways open, keep our malls, keep our stores, the entrance areas open. We don't want to block them, any area at all. And remember that these laws apply in all situations. So we know that a white sign means law. It's regulation. So if it's a parking situation, it's going to be a white sign with red lettering. And parking in a restrictive area, like at the Hannaford in Durham, that's close to $100 being towed away. Here's a picture of Massachusetts, and the fine is $131. That's a lot of money. Okay, so they tow your vehicle away, and then you're going to have to find out where they've taken it, and that's going to mean you have to hire an Uber because you don't have your car anymore. It gets expensive. So don't try to, get out of paying a meter in downtown Boston, because when you come out from your concert, your car could be gone. And by the way, parking in the city is expensive. So, $25 to $40 to $50 is not uncommon. So plan out when you go to a concert or to a sporting event in Boston, plan out where you're going to park. Okay, so be smart. Here they said, and I found this interesting, 90,000 cars are towed in Boston in a given year. And that's a couple years ago. This is, well, more than a couple. It says 2011. So can you imagine? Multiply, 90,000 by $131. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. What happens when you park in front of a fire hydrant? This is what happens. They'll actually break out your windows. Okay? Break out your windows. And you have to pay for it. It's your responsibility to pay for damages. They don't have to do it because you were breaking a law. And a lot of people ask me, well, how close can you park to a car? You can park so close as long as you don't hit it. But the people may not be too happy with you. Look how close those cars are. That's crazy. That's crazy. Okay. By the way, they knew each other. This was a video, but I just took a snapshot of it. These are two guys that work in a car wash. And to get room for everything, they've got to park that close, which I thought was kind of, boy, that's brave. So here are some key points to remember when parking. Move as far away from traffic as you possibly can, about a foot away. So remember that for tomorrow. Avoid traffic. Secure the vehicle. Make sure the vehicle cannot move. And check for traffic before you open up the door. Okay, all those things are very important to do before you get out of your vehicle. Here's an article, and it's too hard to read, but an individual from Somersworth parked his car in downtown Dover. He was too far away. He was more than a foot away. He was 18 inches away. He had paid the meter, so legally he had paid the meter to park, but he was too far away from the curb, and they still gave him a parking ticket. That's a parking meter person that takes his job way too seriously. I can see if he was out in the road a little bit, but 18 inches compared to 12 inches, that's a little bit much. Parking by the side of the road. You must be off the paved or main travel portion of the road or it will be towed. If it's not possible to pull off the road completely, you must be seen for 200 feet in both directions. Okay, that's a question that I'm going to test you on, so know that. Do not stop on a hill, curve, or a highway. Look for a safe place. And then with parking lights, I can't even see it because of my screen here. Use parking lights, not emergency lights, when necessary. I don't know if you can hear, there's a rumble going outside my window here. I live very close to an elderly boarding home. And they keep on bringing they're like 8 feet from me right now outside my window. Police will tow vehicles if it's not parked well off the roadway. You must leave a note indicating the problem and when you plan to move the vehicle. So leave your phone number on the note, and I would always call the police to let them know what's going on, and that's the number. I don't know if they still have that. I think they probably still have that in the manual. In the old manual, they had it, so I included it here for the PowerPoint. You do need to know these, so make sure that you highlight these in your manual. I would study them. Most of these are common sense situations, but when we get to the numbers, you're going to just have to probably put it on a cue card and go from there. Parking alongside another parked vehicle. So we're talking about being double parked. It's not legal. The only people that can do it, and I put it here in the notes, are delivery people. Okay, delivery people can double park. So downtown Durham, if they're, bringing food to the different stores, they can be out in your lane, almost halfway in your lane. That's okay for them. And they'll block in other cars too. But they've got to make the delivery as quickly as possible. Should never have your vehicle on a sidewalk, in an intersection, on a crosswalk, on a bridge. All these should be like common sense type of things. In a highway tunnel, blocks other traffic, or is a hazard to others on the road, on any street where there's not enough clearance for other vehicles to pass, in front of a driveway. These are the ones you have to just know. So I'm going to leave these up on the screen here for a little bit. 15 feet of a fire hydrant, 20 feet of a crosswalk, 30 feet of a stop sign, yield sign, or traffic control signal, 20 feet of a fire station entrance, and 75 on the opposite side, and then 50 feet on the nearest rail or railroad crossing. So these are all numbers that will come up. So the first probably 4, the bottom one not so much, the railroad crossing, but some of these will be on your midterm and on your final, because you never want to put your car where you could get a ticket. So a lot of people don't spend the time to look for signs. So if you just know in your mind, you know, geez, I'm really close to that fire hydrant, maybe I should find a different parking spot. I think that's going to help you. Now, when it comes to handicap parking, we know it's a blue sign. And when there's a handicap spot, there's going to be what they call access aisles next to it. And they're usually the yellow or white crossed hatch areas. That's for people in wheelchairs needing to put down a ramp. So the ramp is the access. So never use those spots as a real parking space, because if you're in a real small car, you could probably squeeze into that. So the fine's $250. If you park in one of those areas that I just mentioned, those are the fines, $50, $100, $250. That's for like your second, third offense. And you know what they look like. It's the crossed hatch, yellow, white lines. I know it doesn't seem like a big deal. There's no handicapped people around, so you think, oh, I'm just going to use the spot, run inside, get my pizza, and then leave. Just don't do it, because people can actually, and I think that's the next slide, people can actually take a picture. They can call the police. You could still get in trouble for using these parking spaces unless you have some type of designation indicating that you have the ability to use that handicap spot. Now, my dad has a handicap, and when I travel with him, we'll always take his handicap placard out of his car, and we'll put it, I usually use my driver's ed car, I'll just hang it from the rearview mirror. So when we park, it's got his number on it. So I only use it when I have him, when I have to get him into the hospital or into a store, we will utilize that. But and I know people do this. They borrow other people's handicap sticker or placard in order to get a front parking space when they know that there are no parking spaces around someplace, like in Portsmouth to get to a restaurant or something. Okay, you're not supposed to do that. Okay, let's talk about the different types of skills that they could test you on for driving on your driver's test. We spend probably 95% of our driving time in drive. But we do have the gear reverse, and reverse is to get out of your driveway, to get out of parking spaces. But we don't spend a lot of time in reverse, backing. But I always want to take you out to see how your skill is with backing to the right, backing to the left. Do you make the necessary checks? Do you end in the road where you're supposed to? So backing does classify as a driving skill on a driver's test. So whether they actually take you out, they used to, and I still like teaching it. I still think it's useful. But whether they're still using it right now, I haven't heard many people doing it. But I did want to kind of put down a few things. So you can write this down if you want. Take a snapshot picture of it and refer to it back later. Always put your car in a place to be successful to back out of a driveway. So be centered in the middle of the driveway if you can. When you get to the bottom of your driveway in reverse, know which way you're backing. So you should know your right from your left, and make sure you end in the correct lane. Always use your mirrors or look over your shoulder when you're backing. Don't rely just on the camera. And always stop at the end of the driveway and check for traffic. But don't make it one fluid motion. Do a slight hesitation. Look both ways, because if something's coming, it's easier to stop or to stay stopped than to be moving and try to stop. And then, of course, end in the correct lane. So that's backing. So let me show you. I did this little video, and I think most of you have done it with me. So that was my video that I made with my son about backing out of a driveway. I had just bought a drone, and all these parking videos that you see, I had some fun with my drone making them. I still got to make one for angle parking, so that's the next thing we're going to talk about, angle parking. And I still haven't made one for backing into perpendicular parking spots, but I've got one with parallel coming up, and I've got one with perpendicular. So let's deal with angle parking. Angle parking is the easiest type of parking that you have, because traffic goes in one direction and then it veers off at a 45-degree angle. So we usually find these areas in like fast food restaurants, wherever you want traffic going in one direction. So downtown areas, very common. Schools especially, although I'm surprised that in front of Oyster River we have perpendicular. Angle would have been a lot easier for people to get in and out. I think it's important that you understand when it comes to parking, you want more space, more distance to park. So always try to move your vehicle away from where you're parking. So if you're parking to the left, you want to stay over to the right. If you're parking to the right, you want to stay way over to the left. And with angle parking, feel comfortable because traffic is only going in one direction. So you wouldn't have any oncoming cars. It really doesn't matter which side you park on. It may be slightly easier to the left, but really it's the easiest type of parking that there is. So it's really not that complicated. And my key in this, if there's anything you want to remember about angle parking, it's this, is start turning when your side mirror is even with the first line of your parking spot. So you're staying in the middle and you're driving up straight until that mirror off to the left is just at the first parking line of the spot that you're going to take. Now, when you see the inside of your parking spot, the entire area, if there's no area that is hidden by a parked car, then that's usually telling you you're ready to go to make your turn. And I always tell people, it's probably easier to park when there's cars around because you can use those vehicles as a reference. When you have no cars, parking can be a little bit more complicated. And most people have a tendency to get too close to the side that they're turning. So when you park to the left, you probably end up too close to the line on the left-hand side. When you park to the right, you get too close to the one to the right. Now, once you're halfway into your parking spot, straighten your wheels and then work your way the rest of the way in, making minor adjustments. Now, when you back out of your parking spot, you go out halfway. So you're just basically doing reverse what you did in drive. So you go halfway out of your parking spot. Usually your body's going to be at the end of the bumper of the car that you're next to, and then you start to slowly turn your wheel in the direction that you have to back up, whether it be left or right. So that's angle parking. It's really, really simple, and I think I've taken just about all of you out for angle parking. I'm going to skip over perpendicular. I'm going to just cover it in the video because I do a extensive video on perpendicular parking, so I'm not going to even do that. But I do want to get into parallel parking. I've started to do parallel parking with a few of you, and so far, everyone has done fantastic. Parallel parking is not as difficult as it should be for most people, but most people don't take their time, they don't have a system, they don't use reference points, and they park poorly. So here's a video clip that I found of someone that can't park very well with parallel parking. So first of all, they backed up straight too far. Okay, she's in the process of hitting this car. Look at that angle is so bad. There is no way that parallel parking was ever going to work.
I hope she's trying to turn around now.
And I don't know if you can hear what's being said in the movie. Sometimes the language gets a little bit bad. But she's going to actually hit his car.
Yep, she hit us. Oh, these bitches dumb, dude.
I think he knew that she wasn't going to be a very good parker, so that's why he took out his camera to videotape it. Now look, she's waving traffic on because she doesn't know what to do.
Yeah. She hit us.
Now, if I hit someone else's vehicle, I would look out the window and I would apologize.
Fucking cars.
Because if you look in your rearview mirror, you basically know that they're in the car. Now, I have no idea why she's trying to do it again, but guess what? She's going to hit him again.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Now they had enough. Now they're going to go talk to her. Okay? And now she probably wants no part of it. Look at that. That should never happen. Now, especially when we've got parking cameras. Now, something that slow, you can see there's no real damage. There could be a mark or something.
Got it all on video.
But everybody should be able to parallel park. There is no reason why something like that should happen. So let's go back and go through step by step for parallel parking. Stop before the empty spot. So if you're doing it between two vehicles, you want to stop before the parking spot because you want to make traffic behind you stop. A lot of people say, why am I stopping before my parking spot? Because if you pull right up front next to the car in front of your parking spot, people will follow you. And now you're not going to be able to back into your parking spot. So I always stop before the empty parking spot. I put my directional on, and then I pull up next to the car that I'm going to be parallel parking with. And I usually pull up about 2 feet away, and I go mirror to mirror. And the way I teach it in 3 steps. So if you want to write down parallel parking with Mr. Toll is 3 steps. It's right, straight, left. If you can remember right, straight, left, you're going to be able to parallel park. So when I go mirror to mirror, then I know I'm turning my wheel all the way to the right. And I usually have my side mirror tipped down so I can see where my back end is going. I let go of the brake pedal and I create a 45-degree angle where I'm going to be aiming to the back corner of my parking spot. Once I have that 45 degree, I'm going to straighten my wheels and back up until I'm about 1 foot away from the curb. Now, once you're about 1 foot away from the curb, then you're going to straighten up your wheels or turn your wheels sharply to the left and back up until you're parallel with the curb. So there's the side mirror kind of tipped down. You can see the back parking line. Okay, that's what I'm looking at. So let me show you the video that I did for parallel parking. Let's take a look today at one of the hardest driving maneuvers, parallel parking. Three easy steps to parallel parking: right, straight, and left. What's so hard about parallel parking? With a little bit of practice, anybody can do it. So that's parallel parking in a nutshell. So it's just really knowing your angles. Pull past and back into a perpendicular parking spot. A lot of people say, well, can't I just drive into the parking spot, and if there's an empty spot in front of me, can I just pull through? Yeah, absolutely. But sometimes, like at the high school, you just can't do that. You're going to have to back into it. So here are some easy steps to follow to back into a perpendicular parking spot. When you approach that empty spot, you want to be about 3 to 5 feet away from the end lines of where you're going to be parking. And then you find the parking spot that you want, and then you pull up 3 parking spots. Go up 3 lines. This is the key. That's allowing you to get far enough past the spot to get into it. You set your side mirror down like you do with parallel parking. Anytime that you're in reverse and you're backing up, your side mirror. This is why I took you to Dover High to do some side mirror backing, is to get used to using your side mirrors when you're in reverse. Use your turn signal to the right, and then back off that 3rd line, probably about a foot, and that's going to put your back bumper just before the line of your parking spot. And then you're going to turn all the way sharply to the right. Using your side mirrors, you're going to guide your car into that parking spot until your right side is parallel with the parking line. Once you're halfway in, you're going to straighten up your wheels and then finish into that parking spot. You're more apt to do this type of parking than parallel parking on your driver's test. Now, I still haven't made a video for this. I've got to find enough time to get out and do it. Get my drone all equipped with the necessary batteries to film for the half of a day to get all the shots that I need. So I got to do that. I got to find my batteries. But I did do one with perpendicular parking, so I want to show you perpendicular. Perpendicular is the most common type of parking, and this is the one I want to stress the most, and this is the one that most people have a difficult time with. So let's take a look at perpendicular parking. Hi, I'm Kevin Toll with Peace, Love, and Safe Driving. Welcome to today's episode about perpendicular parking. We're going to talk about perpendicular parking to the left and perpendicular parking to the right and what makes it so difficult. We'll give you a few easy tips to solve those problems. One of the problems with perpendicular parking, it's the approach. Most people don't understand or they forget that it's two-way traffic. So you should always be in the correct lane as you approach. If you try to cheat to go into a parking spot early, you're bound to cut off your lines and your angles. When parking to the left, you should be as far as you possibly can at the end of the painted lines of the parking spots that are next to you. You should look out your side window and line up your side. You should line up your shoulder with one of the parking lines. If you take a look out the window from the driver's seat, your shoulder will be lined up with a parking line prior to the parking spot that you're going to be taking. The front bumper is now even with the first line of the parking spot you'll be parking in. Put on your signal, lightly let go of the brake, and gradually turn the wheel to the left. You still should be able to see the left parking light underneath your side mirror as you start to approach into your parking spot. Once you are straight, straighten up your wheel and go to the end of your parking spot. As you approach into your parking spot, use the lines of the parking spot in front of you to help center yourself in your parking spot, making sure that you do not go through the end line into the parking spot in front of you. Here's a car that is going in the middle of the traveling lane, starting to turn the wheel before the front bumper gets to the first line. So you're coming at an angle. You're probably cutting off a little bit of the left line and you're turning extremely sharp to get into your parking spot. Now you're in your parking spot, you're parallel to your lines, but if there were parked cars, you would have a problem. We're approaching the same parking spot, but we're going beyond the shoulder line, beyond the bumper with the first line. Now we're going to go far over into the right side of a parking spot, backing into the left spot, and now you're in your parking spot. Very close to the right side of the line of your parking spot. Plenty of room off to the left. It doesn't look that bad from the outside, but if there was a car to the right of us, we would have hit it. So let's just kind of go back and do each of those maneuvers and set up cones with a piece of wood and see if we would have hit cars. Okay, what we've done is we've set up some safety cones with a thin piece of wood to simulate where a side of a vehicle would be. We're basically about a foot off the line on either side. One of the problems with a vehicle, it does give you a reference as you pull in. Now we're going to lose these cones as we go into our parking spot, and that's very common for a new driver. They lose sight of what is to the left or the right of the vehicle because they're focused so much onto the front part of the car. So let's get in the car and take a look at not having good angles coming into your parking spot. I'm approaching from the middle of the traveling lane. I'm going to start my turn a little bit early. This is a common problem for most people. They try to get in at the very top of the white line, and then they find that they're going to hit the car to the right, so they turn real sharp to the left. Now you notice that we didn't hit the cones, but we are on the line to the left of our parking spot. Never want to hit a car. Approach from the middle again. This time we're going to go a little bit beyond the shoulder line and the bumper with the first line of your parking spot. So this is going to be a late turn into a parking spot. So here we are turning very, very lately. As you see, hitting the cone, hitting the wood. It would have been a car. If you have a new driver, you don't have a safety brake where you could stop the car. You've just had your first crash. Let's talk about one of the most difficult things of perpendicular parking. Maybe not so much getting in, but a lot of people forget that they've got to get out of their parking spot. And a lot of times when you're going to be backing to the right, now you can back to the left or to the right out of a perpendicular parking spot, but here's a person that only looks to the right, doesn't look to the left, and starts turning the wheel way too early. Notice, hits the piece of wood. That would be scraping up on the side of a car. You now have another crash because you don't focus your attention to the front of the vehicle. Let's go back in and do it the right way. Okay, let's talk about how to get out of a parking spot correctly and safely. You have a choice. You can back to the left or you could back to the right out of a perpendicular parking spot, so it doesn't matter which way that you go. I prefer always backing to the left because it's going to be a wider turn. It's not going to be quite as sharp as the one to the right. But the most important thing to remember about backing out of a perpendicular parking spot is to have your rear view mirror and your side view mirrors adjusted, because even though you're focusing your attention to the right or to the left, what could be coming down the traveling lane, you got to remember there are parked cars behind you in a busy parking lot. And if they're backing out at the same time that you're backing out, and they're not looking at you and you're not looking at them, you are now on a crash course and you're going to hit each other. So my recommendation for backing out of any parking spot is to go out left, right check, go out 6 inches, stop, look again, go out a little bit further, check, check. When you see that no one's coming and you're halfway out would bring your body to the end of the painted parking lines on either side. No one's backing out of a parking spot. No traffic is coming down in either direction. You now can perform your maneuver to the left. So we're going to turn sharp to the left, and that is going to bring us way over onto the left side of the parking lot. Then we can straighten up. You may not be able to get fully straight, but at least you're not going to be hitting a car backing out of a parking spot. Let's take a look at what it would look like if you were to back out from the right. So let's go back into the parking spot. We line up our shoulder with the line prior to the parking spot that we want. We check our rear view mirror, no traffic's coming towards us. We start our turn, we do hand over hand for a quicker, smoother turn. We're coming into our parking spot, we're almost completely straight. We use the lines in front of us. We straighten up our wheel. We go the rest of the way in, trying to get equal space on both sides. So let's back to the right. So putting on your signal, looking both directions, going out 6 inches or so, checking, going out a little bit further, because if there was a car coming, they'd see your backup lights and they would stop to let you out. Now we're at the very end of the painted lines to the right and to the left of us. We are now going to gradually turn to the right till we cleared the car to the left, and now we turn the rest of the way. But notice you're not going to be able to get straight because you have to back out halfway. This is when you put it in drive, you straighten up your car, and you get over into the correct side of your traveling lane. Now for the most difficult way to perpendicular park is to the right. The reason being is traffic is supposed to stay over to the right. But in order to get into that parking spot between the cones, I have to bring my vehicle all the way over as far as I can to the end of the painted lines to the left of me. I am still going to line up my shoulder with the line of the parking spot prior to the parking spot that I want. I put on my signal, and now I start my turn. Hand over hand. Notice I'm not going to hit the cone to the left, which is very common. I wait till I'm straight, and I straighten up my wheel. I approach my parking spot to the furthest point to the left. I line up my shoulder with the line prior to my parking spot. I hesitate. I let go of the brake. I go hand over hand. Watch that I don't hit the cone with the wood. That would be a car. I straighten up my wheel, and now I'm perfectly centered in my parking spot. So hopefully these tips are somewhat helpful. Now, I know the perpendicular was a little bit of a long video. I put that on YouTube even before the COVID thing, because I thought I could help some people out with tips on perpendicular parking, people that hadn't taken driver's ed. So I was going to do this YouTube channel, Peace, Love, and Safe Driving. So it wasn't going to be my classroom format that we have right now. So this was something I was doing on the side, just to see how many people would be interested in learning how to park correctly. So that's why I did that, and why it's a little bit longer. The parallel parking was a little bit quicker, because I knew that in the class format, we were going to be talking about it step by step. So hopefully this was helpful. Now we're going to go back to the section on speed, and I noticed while I was watching this video that the speed movie that we're going to watch did not load correctly. So I'm going to try to load that onto this program now. I usually do this before you come on at 7:30. I do this around 6:30 to get ready. But for whatever reason, it didn't load. So I'm going to have to try to reload it. So we're going to have to do it. So after the video, you're going to answer those questions. So, that I'm going to let you go. I do have a few driving hours for tomorrow. So if you want to drive tomorrow, just text me, let me know, and I'll let you know what we've got. And Friday, same thing in the afternoon. We've got some openings, and Saturday too. So, make yourself available if you haven't driven in a while. We want to continue on, remember, twice a week. So let's see now if I can find the video. So I'm going to do it right from here. I'm going to see if I can go all the way down. Oh, man, I don't even know where I put it. Oh, here it is. Okay, I found it. All right. So this is going to be the remainder of class. So watch the video. It's going to be about 20 minutes long, 25 minutes long, and then do the questions, and then that is your homework, is to do the questions from this video.
Okay.
So I'm going to get out of this, and we will see you tomorrow at 7:30. So it's a good video. It really is. It shows you the dangers of young people getting a little bit too fast behind the wheel.
We've got 9 people.
So we'll see you tomorrow at 7:30.
Okay.
But I'm going to be still here, so continue to watch and answer those questions.
I'm unsure how to tell. Are you involved? We do need help. Okay. Were you involved? Please, thank you. Ma'am?
I was invited to a sleepover with a group of girls that were going to be on the soccer team. We ended up having a good time. First of all, we were painting nails, doing anything girls would do at a sleepover, when we decided that we wanted to go get some food. So we left the house. It was probably around midnight when we left the house. We had also had some toilet paper that we were planning on going to TP with. We ended up at Taco Bell, having a great time. Probably one of the best sleepovers I'd been to, especially since it was a new group of girls that I hadn't known. After Taco Bell, we went to a few different houses, finally chose one that we wanted to TP. TP'd out of fun. Then after TPing, it was time to go home. We were finished. We were on our way back to Katie Berg's house.
I texted Katie as they were on their way home, and she said she told me, yes, got the job done, meaning they were TPing. And then within about 15-20 minutes, they weren't home yet, and all of a sudden we heard sirens, because we don't live too far from the fire station. And then I woke Jim up and I said, the girls are not home yet. They were on their way home, and I hear sirens. I need to try and get a hold of Katie. And I tried to get a hold of Katie, and there was no answer. And that's when we started to panic. And we went outside and we heard more and more sirens. And then we went down to the fire station, and they said there's been a horrific crash. And they were going to set up, and helicopters, Flight for Life was coming in to the high school parking lot.
EMTs, we respond to scenes. We do not ask for this. We are forced into this situation. It affects everybody, not just the people involved. It affects everybody here on the fire scene, ambulance, police, and surrounding community. So every girl that was in that vehicle, we either knew or had either stayed at our house at least one time. So it could have been my daughter, could have been anybody's daughter. All these girls I knew. Some of the girls I couldn't even tell who they were that night with the blood.
I remember waking up in the field and I was looking around and I didn't really know what happened. And I tried to get up, but I couldn't. And then Carly came over to me and I asked her what happened. And she said that we were in a bad car accident. And then I asked her if she could stay by me and she said no, she had to go find the other girls. And then I passed out again. And then I just remember waking up to the EMTs and the ambulance lights.
It was dark and cold, and it was just this, it was scary. I didn't think anything was wrong. I was fine. I knew I was going to be okay. I was I was talkative, I was responsive. I didn't think anything was wrong at that point. I just figured everyone had a few injuries, no big deal. And then next thing I knew, I was watching these ambulances pull up and watching these EMTs pull up and pronouncing my friend's dead. Yeah.
Phone rang. It was about 5:23. Didn't have a clue what it was, who
Why
would
were
be
you
calling, call so early. Got up, picked up the phone, and it was Mrs. Berg, Bonnie Berg, calling. And she said the girls never made it home.
She was hysterical.
Yeah, I had the phone, but he could hear her hysterical voice through
To the receiver.
that I was holding.
I mean, I was in bed. I jumped out of bed, so you're 10, 15 feet away from me, and I could hear Bonnie through the receiver.
But she said, the girls never made it home. And I said, Bonnie, what do you mean the girls never made it home? They're sleeping over at your house. And then she said that...
She's talking about sirens and choppers
and she said they never made it home. They went out, they never made it home. And then, she's talking about... But I don't know how many times it says, Bonnie, slow down, calm down.
Bonnie, calm down.
Just so I could try to piece together what she was trying to tell me.
And you said, Bonnie, where do we go?
And that's where she says, I don't know. I don't know where anybody is. There's kids going down to Milwaukee. There's kids getting ambulance to Fond du Lac.
Well, that night, Sabrina's brother Nick took her to the gathering of the teammates. They were going to be teammates. They weren't all friends. Some of the girls, actually, that was the first night they met each other. She was excited because she was an underclassman, and the upperclassmen who were friends of her brother invited her to be part of this. So we all told her, you should go. They want you to be part of the team.
Yeah, she was excited to go. I mean, she thought it'd be
right.
a neat idea.
And then the next morning, we got notification because our two boys, Nathan and Nicholas, they had to be at a wrestling tournament, and they had to be up at the high school at 7 o'clock. And then they started texting and calling saying, get a hold of Sabrina right away. There's been an accident with all the soccer girls. So I tried calling her phone. I didn't know who to call because nobody had notified us at that point. Actually, nobody notified us at all that morning. I had to call around. I called hospitals. They couldn't give me anything because of HIPAA. I called Mr. Scannell because I had his number, and he's the one who told me his daughter, that Caitlin, had passed. So I didn't want to call any more parents because that is not what I wanted to hear. but I didn't know who to call.
At 7 o'clock that morning, I received a call from Sabrina's mom. And she knew that I was there. And she asked me if I knew anything about her daughter or how she was. My wife was also an EMT. She was here on the scene that night also. I knew she was dead. I couldn't tell her over the phone that her daughter was dead. The next day, my wife and I went there, and we apologized. We went to the scannels. We went to all 3 of the girls that passed.
I remember that when we were traveling down the road, speed was increasing. And then as we had started to go up the hill, we took air, and I remember landing. We were all laughing and screaming, not out of fright, but out of fun. But then the vehicle did a little bounce, and there was dead silence because we swerved right, left, right, left, and hit the ditch and missed the telephone pole. So then we were continuing through the field at a high amount of speed, and I remember the first couple rolls. Then, since I hadn't been buckled, I remember the moment that I hit my head up on top of the roof of the vehicle, and I can still recall the sound exactly of the vehicle. But after that moment of hitting my head, I blacked out, and a while after I woke up on the ground, and nothing felt real. I didn't know what was going on, really. I literally felt like I was in a nightmare. It still is a nightmare.
Hello?
Hi there, Kylie?
Yes.
Hi there, this is the 911 center calling.
Do you know my location?
Okay, hold on. Yes, I have you on Beechnut Drive?
Yes, Beechnut Drive.
Okay, hold on one second. I've got officers and multiple ambulances responding, okay? Just
Awesome, that is, thank you.
Okay, I need you to stay on the line with me for 1 second, okay?
Okay. Teresa, honey. Teresa, where are you going?
Okay.
Are you okay, Teresa? Teresa.
Okay, Kylie, you said there's 9 people injured, correct?
9 or 8, I can't remember right now. I think just 8.
Okay, is anybody pinned in?
I don't see anyone pinned in right now,
Okay.
but my car is pretty smushed.
Okay, is anybody unconscious?
One is not responding to me, the rest of them are awake.
And were you involved, or did you just come across it?
I was driving.
Okay.
Teresa, are you okay, honey?
Are you all teenagers, or?
We're all teenagers, yes. I was driving too fast down the road, and I got us all into an accident. Here, I see the ambulance. I'm going to get it.
As a crash reconstructionist investigating this crash, we were able to determine the following. In the distance, you'll see the far hill, and then you'll see the closest hill to us, and then behind us is a third hill. So what happens is the vehicle comes over the hill in the distance at a high rate of speed. The road then comes down to the hill, it levels off for a short distance, and then you'll crest the small hill. Now, you're coming over the small hill, again, well in excess of the speed limit. You come down into this knoll where the bike trail is, and then you'll go up the third hill. And when they crest this third hill is where the problem happens. When they come over the small hill and they start to go down, the speed at which they're traveling, it creates the weight of the vehicle is going to come off the springs. So now you're going to lose a little steering. You come down into the hollow, if you will, is the best way I can describe it, or knoll. Now the weight on the vehicle is compressed onto the springs, and so when they come up the third hill, you have that little extra kick that takes the weight off the springs. And at that point, the vehicle, when I say airborne, I don't mean that the vehicle is 5, 10 feet, 15 in the air. What it does is it becomes airborne, and what I mean by that is the tires come off the roadway. And it could be 2 inches, it could be 5 inches, it could be 6 inches. But now the tires have lost contact with the road. So now you've lost all steering. And in essence, what happens is, if it's a matter of the driver just merely inputting a little bit of steering to the left, or if it was caused because the weight of the vehicle came up. Now the tires are off, and with that weight, does it just enough turn her? And when the car lands back on the tires aren't straight, they're canted a little bit to the left. So now, of course, the vehicle wants to veer to the left. So at that point, the driver then tries to correct by input steering to the right. Well, she gets it corrected, but now there's a little overcorrection. Now she's got to steer it back to the left. And what happens is you get the serpentine effect. And what I mean by that is left, right, by steering back and forth, back and forth. But once you lose it, you've lost it. And there's not much steering input that you're going to be able to correct it if you're going that fast. Slower speeds, you can correct it. Faster speeds, once you lose it, you've lost it. So after the vehicle is done serpentining, it now travels into the ditch. And prior to entering the field, there's a large stone. The passenger side of that vehicle strikes the stone. That in turn then causes the vehicle to pitch towards the driver's side. And at that point, it starts its roll over the 350 feet. And during that 350 feet is when occupants then are thrown from the vehicle.
Well, those little hills that you have on the roads that you can go over and it makes your stomach drop, that's what we were going for. And it just, I've been over them before at way slower speeds, and they still made my stomach drop.
Everything happened so fast and nobody told the driver to slow down. We all had a chance to tell them to slow down and we didn't. The fun was not worth any of this whatsoever.
I broke my back in 3 spots. I lost vision in my left eye. I broke both arms. I had severe lacerations to my head and brain damage.
I still will find myself sitting in class or trying to fall asleep. I'll wake up at 3 in the morning and I'll have flashbacks. And I can still hear the noise of the silence of us girls in the vehicle from when we knew it wasn't right. And I can still hear the sound of the crashing, of the rolling of the vehicle.
The cause of the crash was due to high speed. This was a dangerous road, and to mix the dangerous road with speed is not going to equal anything good. And because of that high speed, every second of my day, my heart aches for the rest of my life, and along with a lot of other people, and all because of one mistake of the high rate of speed. It just, forever, we have to suffer for one moment of what they thought or the driver thought was going to be a thrill, is now we have to suffer.
I don't call it an accident, I call it a crash, because going at such an excessive speed and having this crash occur, that was a deliberate, conscious choice of the driver to go that fast. She put her life, the driver, in jeopardy, and she put every passenger's life in jeopardy. It's just a miracle that there are 6 survivors from that crash, because the excessive speed,
And that they can all
9
walk
of
and
them.
talk together.
Yes, and that there's no, to me it's a miracle, because if you saw the vehicle, it was terribly, just every window blown out, tires gone. We saw the vehicle months later, because I had to see that vehicle and put my hand on the seat when my daughter took her last breaths.
There's images in my mind from that night that will never go away. They're in there forever. It is something you cannot fathom unless you see it.
As a deputy for 31 years and being involved in crash reconstruction, there seems to be a certain underlying factor in a lot of crashes, and that's speed. And if you're a passenger in a vehicle and you feel that that driver is going too fast, you need to, for your own safety, tell that driver to slow down. I guess my thought is that you have a choice. You can be a continuation of the problems that are on the highway, which is being aggressive, excessive speed, following too close, taking unnecessary risks, being inattentive. Or you can be part of the solution. Drive the speed limit, increase that following distance, be patient, and you have a choice, which you're going to choose.
That is a message I want parents to remind their children every time they walk out the door, you know, to drive responsible, speed kills.
You can never say it enough.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with repeating it.
And kids have to understand, our young adults have to understand, when they take that wheel, they are responsible for everybody in that vehicle.
There's just so much that can happen, and you could blow a tire out, you could lose a tie rod, brake, you could have something run out ahead of you, a farmer's dog, you could have a child. There's recreational trails that someone could be crossing. There could be another vehicle that's coming towards you, and you're losing control, and it's never safe. And because of it, there's 3 lives lost, and there were several injured. And these were lives. This wasn't an event that happened. This was a speed, and you can't move on that easily. And you never get a second chance after that. There's not a second chance. There's one chance there, and it was taken the wrong way. And then, you know, as a result, that there's.
I guess we don't want anybody else to have to go through this either. It's like. I mean, things happen so fast with kids. I guess sometimes kids figure if they don't say nothing, things will be, you know, maybe they didn't realize how fast she was going, but I mean, maybe someone would have said something, she might have slowed down and all 9 girls would still be here instead of only 6.
And parents, you have to let your kids know that when they start driving, they are responsible for everyone in that vehicle. Whatever happens, whether it's an accident or not, they are responsible for the results of what happens.
Because we got 2 older sons, and we always tell them that. I mean, that's so tough because Sabrina didn't drive, so we just hope that when she was with somebody, well, that was the first time she was with older girls. Just kind of assumed every parent told their kids the same thing, you know. Because, yeah, you're responsible for their safety.
And if your child feels that they're not in a safe situation, you know, tell them to call home, tell them to, you know, give you a call to come pick them up, because I'd rather see them, and I'm sure you would rather see them be in a safe vehicle than having to get in a car that they don't feel safe in.
That car went 800 and some feet from the time it left the road. I think it rolled 5 times or 6 times. The speed thing is a major thing. We need to slow down. Kids need to slow down. Like I said, maybe kids should see some of these pictures of these kids that are killed rather than hiding it from them. You know, maybe if you'd see the blood, maybe if you'd see the head that was split open, maybe if you'd see some of this stuff, you guys would remember what the heck's going on. But they don't have a clue. They forget. They think they're invincible. They think that nothing's going to happen to them.
I am very fortunate that I am still here, but speed does kill. Clearly, it is seen that I don't have 3 great friends of mine, and I never will have them back, and I would do anything to have them back in a heartbeat, but speed kills. If I could turn the clock back, I would in a heartbeat. Wouldn't be an option. I would do anything to have those 3 girls back here with me. Do anything to not have to go through what I do on a daily basis, and to not have seen what I saw, and I would turn the clock back if I could and say something, slow down, anything.
After going through this experience, I think it's important for people to follow the speed limits because there's a reason they're there, and it's for your safety. And if you ever are going above the speed limit where you're uncomfortable or somebody else is, that you should really just tell them to stop before anything bad happens where you can't go back.
Don't be scared to speak up. It doesn't make you a wimp. It doesn't make you a bad kid for saying slow down. It would have saved some lives if I would have done it. And I would give anything, like I said, to go back and say, slow down, please.
I love taking pictures, and my daughter Katie loved being in them, so the two of us together, it was a lot of fun. And this picture frame here represents all the pictures that Katie will never be in as a result of the high-speed crash. This would have been a picture of her with her friends playing soccer, and a picture of her at her junior prom, and a picture of her doing a powder puff game in school with the girls, and a picture of her graduating her senior year, and a picture of us going with her to different colleges, looking at where she's going to go, and a picture of us going to Germany to see her brother over there, vacation. There's so many pictures that are not here that would have been if it wasn't because of this speed that killed her.
We were just all having fun and didn't think anything bad was going to happen. Nobody ever thinks anything bad's going to happen.
This is a difficult case. You've got the lives of 3 promising young women that are gone. You can't bring them back. It was just a horrific scene with these girls, one dead, some dying, all or most very seriously injured. I really don't care a whole lot whose idea it was or whether they were egging her on to do that. I just don't give anybody a break for peer pressure. I never have. The bottom line is whether it was her idea or one of the other girls or whatever, she was driving the car. She was responsible for the safety of the other girls.
That night, it was just a bunch of girls having fun. We were at Katie's house, and we were painting each other's nails, and then we decided to go to Taco Bell, and then we TP'd a friend's house, and I just remember everyone having a blast and having a smile on their face, and we couldn't stop laughing. And even in the car up to the last second, I just remember hearing laughs.
We're all teenagers, yes. I was driving too fast down the road and I got us all into an accident.
So I hope that you are as moved from this video that I was. That, oh goodness, why did it do that? There we go. It's pretty powerful. Of course, it wasn't intentional, but people did lose their lives. So I want you to answer the questions and be thoughtful about, some of these questions here, because once you get in a car and you're driving, you are responsible for everybody else that's inside that vehicle. So it has to be more than just what you want to do behind the wheel. You have to take care of other people. So I want you to text me that you lasted the whole video, that you were here. I see there's only 4 or 5 people still on. So if you text me and let me know that you went to the very end, I'll make a mental note of those of you that did that and get maybe some extra credit on your midterm. But that is what we've got for tonight. So answer the questions that I sent to you. Tomorrow we'll be talking about driving emergencies first. So make sure that you read Chapter 15 in Responsible Driving, do the questions, and then just study for the midterm. And the midterm will take the second half of class. Tonight was a pretty long class because the movie took a long time, but it should only take you about 14, 15 minutes, or you probably answer the questions as the movie was going along. So That's it for tonight. We'll see you tomorrow at 7:30. Remember to text me if you do want to do any driving coming up. So have a good night. Bye.